Acharya's home. So let's look from verse 212 onwards. So just one verse prior to that, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, "You are more important than my own body. So if anyone transgresses you, he will be unable to tolerate his fate." In verse 212, सन्यासी हो यदि अनिंदा का निंदा करे आधा पाते या सर्वा धर्म गुचे तारे. If even a sannyasi blasphemes an innocent person, he goes to hell, and all his religious principles are destroyed. So here, the last couple of verses, Mahaprabhu has stressed that one should not blaspheme anyone, else he faces the consequences for the same. Verse 213. बहुतुली जग तेरे बले गौर धामा अनिंदक आई सबे bala Krishna nama. Raising his arms, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu declared to the world, avoid offenses and chant the names of Krishna. To attribute faults when faults are not present is called ninda or blasphemy. It is most necessary to remain aloof from blasphemy while chanting the names of Krishna. Persons who are free from blasphemy are the best of all. One who is devoid of desires to enjoy the fruits of his karma is called a sannyasi. So we know the qualities of sannyasi from our scriptures. He's like tolerant, he's full of mercy, and he's a renunciate. Even such a sannyasi who is free from blasphemy happens to blaspheme a Vaishnava, then all his principles of renunciation and abstinence from talking about others are destroyed and he falls down. So that is the consequence of blasphemy, and even for a sannyasi, he is not spared. So if they talk about a person who could be even an ordinary person, it affects their fault. It causes a fall down to them. अनिंदक ये सकृत कृष्ण बले सत्य सत्य मुनि तारे उदीर वहेले. If one who is free from blasphemy chants the name of Krishna even once, I will certainly deliver him. So here Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, without any offenses, if one chants, I will certainly deliver that person who chants the holy name. So one who chants the names of Krishna while remaining aloof from attributing false faults in the course of talking about others becomes free from the bondage of material existence. Blaspheming the devotees of Krishna earns one the qualification to enjoy the threefold miseries of material existence. When a living entity becomes free from blasphemy of Vaishnavas, he attains liberation. The three classes of materialistic people, Mayavadis, Karmis, and gross materialists, are blasphemers of Vaishnavas. It is important for them to chant the names of Krishna. So here Mahaprabhu, or in the purport, it is mentioned that the gross materialist Mayavadis and Karmis are always blaspheming the Vaishnavas. So their result will be their eventual fall down. So for them to not fall, they should start taking the names of Krishna. But since they don't believe in the Supreme Lord and they have their own philosophy of impersonalism, it will be difficult for them. यदि महाप्रभु बलिला वचना जय 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 बले सर्व भक्त gana. When Mahaprabhu spoke these words, all the devotees chanted Jaya Jaya. अद्वैत कांदाए दुई चरणे धरिया प्रभु कांदे अद्वैते रे कोलेते करिया. Advaita Acharya cried and grabbed the lotus feet of Lord. The Lord also began to cry as he embraced Advaita. अद्वैतेर प्रेमे भासे सकल में दीनी ए माता महाचिंत्य अद्वैत कहini. The entire world floated in Advaita's ecstatic love. Such are the inconceivable topics of Advaita. Advaita re vakya bhuji bara shakti kara jani hai ishwara sane bhede nahi yara. Who has the power to understand Advaita's words? One should know that there is no difference between him and the Supreme Lord. Nityananda Advaite ye gala 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 gali bhaje say Paramananda yadi jane bhuje. If one understands the superficial quarrels between Nityananda and Advaita, he will attain supreme happiness. So Advaita Acharya was the one who saw the at that times disturbance in the society and then prayed to his Shaligram Shila and requested Krishna to descend. So we don't say Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is an avatar of Krishna. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is Krishna himself. So Advaita in the Sadashiv, he is Sadashiv and also partial Vishnu form. And hence, when we are worshipping the Panchatattva, we offer even Tulsi to, apart from to Nityananda and Gaurang Mahaprabhu, we offer Tulsi to even Advaita's lotus feet. So because of Advaita Acharya, we got the Supreme Personality of Godhead as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in the mood of Radharani in Navadvip, and he gave the biggest revolution for the love of Godhead, wherein he praised his own names and calling out in separation mood. He was in separation mood because he came himself in the mood of Radharani, and in that mood he wanted to experience the Viraha Bhav of Radharani, and hence he came, he advented in Navadvip Dham and taught how to be a devotee, and he himself being a devotee, the supreme devotee, the topmost devotee is Srimati Radharani. And he came in Radha Bhav and started looking for Krishna. In Jagannath Puri, when Mahaprabhu stayed for his last set of 18 years, he continuously was feeling immense separation. The samudra or the sea water in Jagannath Puri used to resemble Yamuna, and he used to frequently jump into it thinking it is Yamuna. And similarly, he was in so much separation from Jagannath because he was in Radha Bhav. And similarly, Jagannath in the Dwaraka mood is in separation from Vraja, from Radharani and Gopis, and that is the reason Jagannath is also in a mood of Vipralamba Bhav in Jagannath Puri Kshetra. And during Rath Yatra, Jagannath is pulled towards Gundicha Mandir, which is the Vrindavan. So we all pull Jagannath Krishna to our hearts, which is bereft of any Krishna prem, and by pulling Krishna into our heart, we also experience Krishna prem. Text 220. दुर्विघ्नेय विष्णु वैष्णवेर वाक्य कर्म ताना अनुग्रहे से भुजी हे तारा मर्मा. The words and activities of Vishnu and the Vaishnavas are incomprehensible. Only by their mercy can one understand them. All words current in the world are indicative of material objects. Material activities are aimed at providing fruits to the performer. But the words of Vishnu and Vaishnavas are not like that. Their activities are not similar to the activities of those who are not Vishnu and who are not Vaishnavas. The difference between the words and the activities of Vishnu and the Vaishnavas and the words and activities of others is that the latter are under the control of sensual knowledge, whereas the former are beyond the control of sensual knowledge. Only by the mercy of Vishnu and the Vaishnavas can one attain the qualification to enter that difficult to comprehend kingdom. So we can see that we all are in this material world, and the waves of the Triveda Tap doesn't leave anybody unaffected. So all of us know the Triveda Tap, Adhyatmika, Adi Bhautika, and Adi Daivika. And when we try to seek solution or we try to take shelter, you can experience yourself that once you go to your materialistic people, the people in your neighborhood or people in your office or colleagues or whatever, you will get only material solutions for your material problems. But when at the same time you approach your association of devotees, your mentors or devotees at the same level, they will pull you towards Krishna. So always life gives us two choices. One is Krishna, one is Maya. So if you ask materialistic people, you will get solutions which will be materialistic only, and which means you will continue to remain in Maya, and you have to make the choice. And if you want solutions which are not materialistic, and when you approach your devotees, you will get solutions which are spiritual. So for all our material problems, there is no material solution. For all our material problems, the solution is only spiritual. So in text 221 222, Ei Mata Yata Arahai Katana Nityananda Advaita Prabhu Arayata Gana Iha Bhuji Bara Shakti Prabhu Bala Rama Sahasrabadane Gaya Ei Gunagrama. Only Lord Balram has the power to understand the pastimes that took place between Nityananda and Advaita and their associates. In his form as Ananta, he sings their glories with his 1,000 mouths. क्षणे के बाह्य दृष्टि दिया विश्वम्बरा हसिया Advaita प्रतिफलाये uttara. Vishwambara then glanced. Give me a moment, I lost the verse, please. Vishwambara then glanced at Advaita and smiled as he spoke to him. Kichuni chanchalaya muni kariya chonchishu Advaita balaye upadika nahe kichu. Have I been mischievous like a child? Advaita replied, not particularly. Vishwambara said to Advaita, with childish restlessness, I came to punish you. In reply to that, Advaita Mahaprabhu said, your activities like these are never real. They are simply temporary incidents situated near reality. Therefore, they are actually superficial rather than factual. A spirit soul's absorption in mental activities and gross bodily activities is only temporary. That is, it is not full of eternal knowledge or uninterrupted bliss, and it is simply a temporary conception. So, when our we have the spirit soul is covered by two things. One is the gross body and subtle body, and both are material. The gross body is made up of our five major elements. You can say 24 elements. Without these 24 elements, we can't do any karma, any activity. Karma means activity. But on top of the gross body, we also have a subtle body made up of mind, intelligence, and self ego, and that is also material. So our ego, when we have to leave our false ego, just give me a moment. Class, 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 class. So when we have to leave the body, or when we have to leave our false ego, which means both the gross body and subtle body has to be left behind. So both we have to get purified. The soul gets purified only when these two sets of bodies are left behind. Both are material in nature. And then what the soul has within is a spiritual mind, intelligence, and senses. And only with the spiritual mind, intelligence, senses is the soul is able to go to Lord's home. And mana, here there is a talk about mental activities, that mind can be your friend and mind can be your enemy also. So you have to convert your mind to be your friend, or at least keep on um, trying to tell your mind that you have to be very friendly to me, in a sense that mind is our cause of distress and mind is also our cause of happiness. So if you are in distress, it is all because of the mind, and similarly if you are in bliss, again it is because of your mind. So it is very important to see that, watch what your mind is telling you to do. प्रभु बले सुना नित्यानंद महाशया शामी बाचंचल्या यदि मोरा किच्छु है. The Lord said, listen, Nityananda Mahashaya, if I have been restless, please forgive me. Nityananda Chaitanya Advaita Haridasa Paraspara Sabachahi Sabe Haila Hasa. Then Nityananda Chaitanya and Advaita and Haridasa looked at one another and began to laugh. Advaita Grini Mahashati Pativrata Vishwambara Mahaprabhu Yarabale Mata. Vishwambara Mahaprabhu would address the most chaste wife of Advaita as mother. Prabhu bale shigra giya kara harandana, Krishna re naivedya kara kariba bhojana. The Lord said to Advaita Acharya's wife, go quickly and cook an offering for Krishna, then we shall eat. Nityananda Haridasa Advaitadi Sange Ganga Snane Vishwambara Chadilena Range. Thereafter, Vishwambara went to take bath in Ganga with his associates, headed by Nityananda Prabhu, Haridasa, and Advaita. Sheshava Ananda Vede Varni Be Vistara Snanakari Prabhu Sapa Ailena Kara. These ecstatic pastimes will be described in the Vedas. After taking bath, the Lord and his associates returned to the house. The Vedic literatures are the disseminators of actual knowledge rather than superficial knowledge. Actual, pure, real knowledge manifests in the hearts of the living entities from the descriptions of the Veda. So, from Veda, what we are supposed to know? Anybody wants to answer? So, what does the scriptures talks about Veda in Bhagavad Gita?
To know the Lord.
Can you quote the words, Mataji?
Yeah. सर्वस्य चाहं हृदि सन्निविष्टो मतः स्मृतिज्ञानपोहनं च वेदेश सर्वैरहमेव वेद्य वेदान्तकृतिर्विदेह चाहम्.
Hari Bol, Hari Bol. So, Krishna says, of all the Vedas, Vedesu Sarva Ahameva Vedyo. What is the purpose of reciting the Vedas or knowing the Vedas or studying the Vedas is to know the Supreme Personality of God, Krishna, who is the creator. We know everything that he is the supreme person who controls everything, and he is Shada Ishwarya Purna, and he has unlimited qualities, and he has no Adi nor Ant. Advaitam Achyutam Anadi Ananta Rupam Adyam Purana Purusham Nava Yauvanam Cha. So he is always eternally young, and he has no beginning and is no end, and he is the Adi Purusha, Govindam Adi Purusham Samaham Bhajami. So Vedas, through Vedas, we know the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and that is the to know Krishna, to know his pastimes, to know his leelas, to know his associates, and to know his dham, or to know his place where he did all the pastimes. So, can someone quote the verse in Bhagavad Gita which says that once you know the pastimes of Krishna, that is enough for us to get out of this material world?
तर्हि 9.4 जन्म कर्म च मे दिव्यमिदं यो वेत्ति तत्त्वतः
Yeah.
त्यक्त्वा तेहं
Yatva
पुनर्जन्म
punarjanma naiti
नैतिमामिति
mameti
सोऽर्जुन.
Arjuna. So if you know the Janma, his pastimes, karma of the Lord, the transcendental leelas of the Lord, and they are divya. Know that these leelas are not mundane, but they are divya, transcendental. And like a mundane person, we don't compare ourselves to the Lord, but we know about all his pastimes and understand that they are all transcendental. Then once we leave the body, we are sure to go back to God, Godhead, or God's home. चरण पखाली महाप्रभु विश्वम्बर कृष्णे रेखा राय दंड प्रणाम विस्तार. After washing his lotus feet, Mahaprabhu Vishwambara offered his obeisances to Krishna. Advaita Padila Vishwambara Padatale Haridasa Padila Advaita Padamule. Advaita then fell at the feet of Vishwambara and Haridasa fell at the feet of Advaita Acharya. अपूर्व कौतुका देखी नित्यानंद हसे धर्म से तु ये नातीन विग्रह प्रकाशे. Nityananda smiled while watching these wonderful pastimes. These three personalities are the bridge of transcendental religious principles. The three separate manifestations, Sri Nityananda, Sri Advaita, and Sri Mahaprabhu, are the bridge for approaching the absolute truth. By following the conceptions preached by these three personalities, the living entities can easily cross the ocean of material existence. So, before getting to Radha Krishna, if we worship very nicely Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Gaurang Mahaprabhu, and Nityananda Prabhu and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Nityananda Prabhu is who? Adi Guru, and he is Balaram himself. So, and Balaram leads us to Krishna and Advaita Acharya also. So, when you worship the Panchatattva, it is an easy way to get to the lotus feet of Radharani and Krishna, because Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is, who is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu? Is the combined avatar of Radha Bhav and Krishna himself. उठी देखी ठाकुरा अद्वैत पादा तले आधे व्याथे उठी प्रभु विष्णु विष्णु बले. When the Lord had fallen at the feet of Advaita Acharya, when the Lord began to rise, he saw Advaita at his lotus feet, and he therefore quickly stood up and exclaimed, Vishnu, Vishnu. He didn't want Advaita to be falling at his feet. Advaite rahate dhari nityananda sange chalila bhojana grihe vishwambara range. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu took Advaita by his hand and went with Nityananda Prabhu to have the prasad. भोजन वसीला तीना प्रभु एक थानी Vishwambara Nityananda Acharya Gosani. The three lords Vishwambara, Nityananda and Advaita Acharya then sat together to have their bhojana or prasad. स्वभाव चंचल तीना प्रभु निज वेशे उपाधिक Nityananda अति बल्यारासे. By nature, the three lords were restless in their own ecstasies. Nityananda, however, was especially so because of his childish mood. द्वारे वासी भोजन कराए हरिदासा यारा देखी बारा शक्ति सकल प्रकाशा. Haridasa, who was qualified to see those pastimes, sat down by the door and he ate there. Advaita Grini Mahasati Yogeshwari Pariveshana Karena Sanari Hari Hari. Advaita's most chaste wife, Sita Mata, who was an exalted devotee, remembered Lord Hari as she served them the food. Bhojana karena tina thakura chanchala divya anna grita dugdha payasa sakala. The three restless lords ate the finest rice with ghee, along with milk, grita meaning ghee, and dugdha with milk and sweet rice, payasa sakala. Advaita dekhiya hase Nityananda raya eka vastu doi bhaga Krishnera leelaya. Nityananda looked at Advaita and smiled. They are one, yet they have appeared as two for the purpose of assisting Krishna's pastimes. So Nityananda looked at Advaita and he's saying they have appeared as two for the purpose. Who? Advaita Acharya and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Ultimately, they are all, they are Mahavishnu. So from Balaram comes Mahavishnu, and Nityananda is observing this and says, they are one, but for the sake of Leela, for the sake of pastimes, they have appeared as two personalities. Bhojana Haila Purna Kichu Matra Shesha Nityananda Haila Parama Balya Vesha. When they had almost finished their meal, Nityananda became fully absorbed in the mood of a child. Shabagare Anna Chadiya Haila Hasa Prabhu Bale Haya Haya Hase Haridasa. As Nityananda laughed loudly and threw rice all about the room, the Lord exclaimed, Haya Haya, and Haridasa smiled. देखिए अद्वैता क्रोधे अग्नि है न ज्वले नित्यानंद तत्व कहे क्रोधावेशे चले. On seeing this, Advaita began to burn like fire with anger. On the pretext of anger, he then began to describe the glories of Nityananda. Why Advaita got angry? Because Nityananda had started to throw some rice around the room. I think we'll stop here because the next verse is slightly bigger, so we will take it in tomorrow's class. Hare Krishna. Thank you all for joining.
Hare Krishna Mataji, Dandavat Pranam.
Thank you, Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Dandavat Pranam to all.
Mataji, Hare Krishna.
हाँ
Mataji,
माताजी.
can I ask you some doubt?
हाँ बोलिए ना.
Mataji, 2 and 3, we were reading in the purport, we were reading to attribute faults when faults are not present is called ninda or blasphemy. It is most necessary to remain aloof from blasphemy while chanting names of Krishna. Now, my question is, Mataji, to attribute faults when faults are not present, even if the faults are present in the other person, who are we to point out that?
Correct. So it is said that, Mataji, it is said that we have to completely avoid blasphemy. So whether faults are present or not. Ninda yani kya? Ab gossip, like your one is gossiping, and whether that fault is, it is your ignorance that you are observing, right? It's an external thing. And in whosoever person we are talking, it might be true or it might not be true. Like if I'm telling you, for example, if a person is getting hurt because somebody spoke about him something, but really the person may not be so, right? Thinking, I don't have that bad quality. Why are they thinking about me like that? So he can't change the world. Similarly, on the opposite side, if we are talking bad or blasphemy about somebody, whether those faults are present or not, we are not supposed to practice. So that is one of our namakrat, which means then our ruchi in chanting. So two things we should not have. One is this dvesha, and one more thing. At the time of death, we should not have envy and dvesha. If we have these things, then we will not cross this bhavasagar. So dvesha comes when we have any animosity or anything with anybody in this world. That is why we are asked to say ki try to become like a sthita pragya, that we are not affected by things of this world, but at the same time we are doing our journey within. We start doing our journey within, because at the time of death, then all these dvesha etc will come to our mind, and that keeps on disturbing. Not only disturbing, it affects our chanting, it affects our concentration, it affects our smarana also of the Lord.
Okay, Mataji. Yeah.
माता जी उसके साथ में एक डाउट दूसरा भी है। तो माता जी, अगर हम किसी के बारे में कुछ ऐसे, मतलब कोई भाव नहीं, ईर्ष्या का भाव नहीं है, मगर वो रियल दिख रहा है कि कुछ उसमें कुछ फॉल्स है, मगर उसको सिर्फ बोलते हैं, मगर उसके प्रति कुछ ईर्ष्या भाव नहीं रखते हैं, तो मतलब हम जस्ट देखते हैं और बोल दिया, तो वो भी एक अपराधी है माता जी?
हाँ माता जी, बोलना बोलना भी अपराधी माना जाता है, एंड आई थिंक यू हैव टू ऑब्जर्व इट फॉर योरसेल्फ. आपके बोलने के
किसी को
बाद,
बताना नहीं है।
हाँ, आपके बोलने के बाद आप पे क्या बीतती है, वो भी हमें ऑब्जर्व करना है. तो अक्सर देखा जाता है कि वी ऑल्सो स्टार्ट टू फेस सम hindrances, difficulties, or our ruchi in chanting goes, or we start to feel more lazy, or our enthusiasm drops. So better we have to avoid. So Gramya
Yes,
Katana,
Mataji.
Gramya Katana Sunibe. No need to talk, and at the same time, you can inquire. If you're inquiring, it is okay. You're not blaspheming the person, you're inquiring. ये आ रहा है, ये नहीं आ रहा है. You're encouraging people to come for the katha or listen, asking them how is your chanting going on. So what does devotee do when they ask, okay, are you listening to katha? Are you practicing your sadhana nicely? Are you facing any problems, right? So whenever you face such problems, you can reach out to your mentor or your association of devotees, whomsoever you feel close, and then you will see what you're talking. So once you see what you're talking, you can automatically start to stop talking about others and at least talk about sadhana and what did you hear new in Krishna Katha. So you can share Parasparam, you can share Harikatha. So that is much better than talking any mundane thing or anything about anybody. While you can inquire ki how are these people doing and all. So that is not blasphemy. Unnecessary talking about some person is, we can avoid that.
Yes,
It is said not only of devotees but for general people also. For materialistic people also, we should not talk about anything ill about anybody.
थैंक यू माता जी।
Hare Krishna.
धन्यवाद, प्रणाम माता जी।
We'll close the class.
यस माता जी।
हरे कृष्ण माता जी, थैंक